Roger ball. Little power.
Naval aviation. It's a term that brings to mind some of the most intense and precise flying in the world. To fly any military aircraft requires a special type of person. But one thing distinguishes Navy and Marine Corps flyers from all the rest: the ability to take off from and land back on an aircraft carrier. Carrier operations are considered to be the most difficult in all of aviation, but the skills needed to perform such feats are learned far from any ship at sea. Throughout their careers, naval aviators spend hundreds of hours at land-based airports learning and practicing their techniques. Field Carrier Landing Practice, or FCLPs, give the pilot a chance to refine their skill in a slightly less harsh environment. They rehearse what is known as the pattern, and perform touch and goes in the same manner they would land on an aircraft carrier. The pattern is flown at 600 feet above the ground with the landing gear and flaps deployed. From overhead, the shape of the pattern resembles a racetrack because one continuous turn is made from upwind to downwind and from downwind to final. Some key points of the pattern include a beam, at which point the aircraft should be at the proper altitude, fully configured, and ready for the approach. The 90, where the pilot has 90 degrees of turn left before he is aligned with the landing area. It is here where the pilot can first start to make adjustments for the final portion of the approach. The start, as the name implies, is where the approach really begins. It is located 3/4 of a mile downwind from the landing area and the point where the final descent to the runway is made. One of the most common misconceptions is that jets use a set speed for landing. In actuality, there is no set speed because the optimal speed will change as the aircraft weight changes. What is used is a set angle of attack, or AOA. In general, the direction that an airplane is pointed in relation to its vertical direction of travel is its angle of attack. During the landing phase, AOA is controlled with pitch using the control stick. AOA is displayed to the pilot by means of an indexer to the left of the heads-up display. The actual number of degrees is shown on the HUD just below the airspeed. When the aircraft is at the optimal AOA, 8.1 degrees in the F-18, plus or minus 1 degree, what is known as the amber donut will be displayed on the indexer, and the aircraft is said to be on speed. When the AOA becomes too high, a green arrow will point down, indicating that the pilot needs to ease the stick forward and lower the nose. If the AOA becomes too low, a red arrow will point up, at which point the pilot should increase back pressure on the stick in order to raise the nose. Small corrections are continuously made by the pilot in order to maintain optimal AOA throughout the approach.
Thank you. 107 approach, final bearing 174, flying 290. Little power. Easy with it.
The vertical angle used to approach the landing area is called the glide path, and it is normally set at 3.5 degrees above the surface. On a visual approach, the pilot is given glide path information by a series of lights located on the side of the runway. At land-based airports, what is known as the Precision Approach Path Indicator, or PAPI, is primarily used. It consists of red and white lights that let the pilot know where he is in relation to the glide path. 2 white lights with 2 red lights informs the pilot that he is on glide path. 3 white lights is an indication of being a little high, while 4 white lights indicates that the aircraft is well above glide path. Conversely, if 3 red lights are seen, the pilot is a little low. When 4 red lights are seen, the aircraft is dangerously low, and the pilot needs to correct the situation immediately. Glide path corrections are made with power using the throttle. If the pilot gets low, the proper technique is to add power to get back on glide path, and then reduce power slightly to continue the approach. On the other hand, if the aircraft gets above glide path, the pilot should initially reduce power to ease the airplane down. Then, once back on glide path, the pilot can slightly increase power in order to continue down at the proper angle. Once again, constant corrections are needed by the pilot in order to maintain glide path throughout the approach. An excellent tool available to the pilot to help maintain proper glide path is the flight path marker. It is designed to show the pilot exactly where the airplane is traveling. However, due to some inconsistencies, it can give misleading information. Many pilots have found that the flight path marker is most accurate in the HUD-only view at 70% zoom. In this setting, once the pilot is on glide path, he can simply use power to place the flight path marker on the landing area and hold it there to maintain the proper descent. Land-based aircraft will flare above the runway in an attempt to soften the touchdown. While this may work, it also has the added effect of making the actual point of touchdown somewhat of a guess. In what is often termed a controlled crash, a carrier-based plane will hold a steady approach until it impacts the deck with no flare at all. When pilots are training to land on a target as small as an aircraft carrier, precision is imperative, to say the least. Precision is just as important when it comes to ensuring the aircraft is on the center line of the runway, otherwise known as lineup. As this pilot learns, lineup deviations have the potential to be catastrophic. When lineup is added to the equation, the pilot's scan during the FCLP is PAPI, lineup, AOA. This is the scan necessary to ensure a safe approach, and is used both in real life as well as the simulator. Once a pilot has gotten the grasp of these basic techniques, he is ready to leave the comfort of land-based airports and move on to the toughest challenge of all. The first task for a pilot during the CQ phase is to get airborne. Due to the confined space of the carrier, 4 steam-powered catapults are used to launch planes skyward, hurling them from 0 to 150 knots in under 3 seconds. When the pilot is hooked up to the catapult, he checks that his flaps are fully down and determines what his downwind heading will be by finding the reciprocal of his current heading. Once ready to go, the pilot advances the throttles to maximum thrust without afterburner, known as military power. A final check of the controls is made in what is called the wipeout. A salute is given to the shooter, and the pilot is along for the ride of his life. The aircraft climbs away at 10 degrees nose up, and the pilot eases the throttles back to medium range in order to keep the speed at about 150 knots. Once at 600 feet, he levels off, and the turn to the downwind is made while dropping the tailhook. It all happens very fast, and practice is the only way to perfect it. On downwind, the jet should be at 600 feet and at the proper AOA. The pilot is also aiming to be at 1.2 miles away from the ship when he's abeam. Once the pilot is at the 90, he determines its position relative to the ship in order to start making adjustments to get a good start. As the pilot rolls wings level, he's aiming to be 3/4 of a mile behind the ship and begins his usual scan just as he did during FCLPs. The lineup portion of the scan now has an added twist. This is due to the fact that the runway centerline is angled 10 degrees away from the centerline of the ship. Because of this angle, as the ship moves forward through the water, the landing area is continuously moving to the pilot's right. This, in combination with the wind, means that constant lineup corrections are needed in order to align the aircraft properly. Because of the immense precision needed on the glide path, the PAPI has been replaced by the Fresnel Lens Optical Landing System. Located to the left of the landing area, it is extremely accurate at giving the pilot visual glide slope information. 2 rows of green lights on either side of the center provide a fixed reference to the pilot. A yellow light in the middle, known as the ball, moves in relation to the airplane's position on glide path. The goal is to keep the ball centered with the green lights throughout the approach. If the jet gets high, the ball will appear to be above the green lights. If the jet gets low, the ball will appear to be below the green lights. If the pilot gets too low, the ball will turn red, indicating a dangerous situation. If this happens, the pilot will most likely see the wave-off lights, telling him to add full power, climb away, and go around for another approach. Though not explicitly used in the simulator, the 4 green lights at the top are called cut lights and are used to relay information to the pilot by the landing signal officer, or LSO. The LSO stands at the back of the ship and assists the pilot in landing the plane through radio calls. The LSO has the ability to detect problems before they begin and transmits corrective action to the pilot. For any pilot who wants to get aboard safely, it is imperative that he do what the LSO tells him when he tells him to do it.
Come right to lineup.
The LSO also grades each approach by breaking it up into 4 parts. The start, as always, occurs at 3/4 of a mile. The pilot is in the middle at a half mile behind the ship. At a 1/4 mile, the jet is said to be in close, and when the plane crosses the back of the ship, it is at the ramp. LSO grades, from highest to lowest, are OK, fair, no grade, and cut pass. Along with the grade, The LSO will inform the pilot as to which of the 4 arresting wires he caught. The goal the pilot is aiming for is to put the tailhook right in the middle of the cables, between the 2 and 3 wires. If he does this, he'll catch the target 3 wire. Thus, the best grade a pilot can get is an OK3. The secret to getting an OK3 is the pilot's scan of ball, lineup, AOA, repeated continuously while making constant corrections and adjustments. But even the best pilots will occasionally miss the wires, known as a bolter, which is why military power is applied when the jet hits the deck. The pilot can then climb back into the pattern and try it again. Landing a jet, flying 130 knots on a moving ship at sea, is the ultimate challenge for any pilot. And the only way to get it right is through proper technique and practice.